Thanks very much indeed. So yes, hi, I'm Sofie. I'm CEO of Hiveonline. We're building software to bring new opportunities to micro businesses, especially those without bank accounts. I've also written a book called Fintech Revolution, Universal Inclusion in the New Financial Ecosystem. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it's how the financial system can adapt through fintech to support the needs of the bottom of the pyramid.
Hi, I'm Line from Care Denmark. I'm leading our innovation projects in West Africa. I've worked with development and human rights for more than 50 years, mostly in NGOs.
So we're talking today about capital allocation, and particularly capital allocation for sustainable projects. But there's a huge investment gap, as we know, 2.5 trillion. I actually think it's closer to 2.8 trillion annually for sustainable projects. And this includes not just big infrastructure, but projects on the ground to make communities more sustainable. Capital markets are fundamentally skewed. There's $100 trillion in bond markets supporting big businesses and governments. There's $73 trillion in equity markets supporting big businesses. And yet there's less than $3.7 trillion in investment and debt for small businesses. Small businesses, micro businesses, make up over half the world's economy and over half of employment. And this is fundamentally unfair. And then when we look at the split between capital allocation to developed and undeveloped countries, or developing countries, again, it's hugely skewed. So, for example, in Nigeria, there's 223 companies listed on the stock exchange, which is roughly the same as in Norway, which has a population 25 times smaller than that of Nigeria. It's crazy. It's not that there's no innovation. There are lots of innovators. In Africa, 1 in 10 people is an entrepreneur versus 1 in 20 in Europe. And there's all this sleeping capital out there as well. There's $7 trillion of capital sitting in people's bank accounts, sitting in savings accounts, which are at virtually zero interest. So if we could start to release that, that would actually begin to fill up part of this pot. And then we look at project funding. Death by pilot familiar to anyone? Yeah? So pilots are a challenge for both ends of the supply chain. They're a problem for investors because you have this weird mix of public and private funding. A lot of public funding is very internally allocated, particularly for early stage businesses, with only very small amounts going overseas. And then you have big corporates wanting to fund great, exciting pilots of new innovative technology. And then after 10 months, they go, oh, squirrel, next project. Yeah? And for innovators like me, that's a real problem. Because we don't want to get involved with those projects because, ooh, squirrel, we've got no scale, we've got no market. Yeah? So that is a problem for innovators, for NGOs, and for people who want to support these projects getting to scale. And NGOs are actually pretty good at getting these projects to scale. The problem is they're quite slow to start them, which means that people like me go, oh, squirrel, we'll find something else to do. So we're going to talk about how we solve that. Collaborative project ecosystems. And what we're talking about today is the amazing work that CARE has been doing to solve both of these problems and build the kind of collaborative project ecosystem that means that innovators like me can get engaged and still be paid, which is really important when you're an early stage startup, but still enable public-private partnerships. And we're working with a very exciting project in Niger, which Lena will introduce, where the needs are great, the government is hungry, corporates are hungry, and everyone recognizes the opportunity. But coordinating that is something that somehow nobody can solve. Now, something that I've observed through looking at capital markets, which I have done for most of my career, and looking at startups and looking at projects and looking at NGOs, is that by changing the shape of how these things are funded and creating more collaboration incentives through milestones, and particularly through sort of channel incentives where you're spreading the incentives across a number of organizations, rather than this winner-takes-all type of funding we're so used to in the startup world, you know, where you've got 200 startups fighting for one VC who'll give somebody $10 million. Fantastic. That's great, but if you're in a collaborative project, that's $10 million to one part of the puzzle, not to all of it. So what we're seeing through the work we're doing with CARE is much more milestone-based approaches, which are actually keeping us all alive while the project grows and scales and giving us opportunity to get to market. and also the opportunity to partner with people in country, partner with commercial people who can actually help us go to scale.
Yes, so let me take you to a very interesting and exciting pilot we're doing in Niger. I don't know if you know Niger, but it's a country where challenges are queuing. It's the least developed country in the world. 90% of the population live in poverty. They are marred by violent conflict and terrorism. They are geographically very challenged in the middle of the Sahara with very few natural resources. So challenges are there. So why did we choose Niger? You can say if we can make it there, we can make it anywhere. But that's not really our goal there. Actually, what we see is a potential for impact, which is enormous, and also a potential for leapfrogging. So we have all these hungry partners there, the government, civil society, private companies trying to do something in tech, and nobody else is there. Nobody is flocking around Niger to give them the investment and technology they need. And also the government has embarked on the Smart Village Africa initiative and decided to spearhead that. So they really need concrete solutions to these enormous challenges. And then on top of that, CARE has 40 years presence in Niger and very good local partners. Another good reason to choose Niger is that that was actually the home of one of the most innovative solutions to financial inclusion. In my respect, that is one of the most innovative, which is called the Village Savings and Loans Associations, the VSLA. You're probably familiar with the concept. It's a group of mainly women, mostly in villages, 15 to 30 people coming around, meeting weekly around a money box. They're depositing savings every week, and then they're taking out small loans to boost their businesses. It gives them flexible savings, loans for small investments. There's a social fund in times of crisis. It boosts their household economy and assets. And even for the women, it boosts their self-esteem to an extent where they go into politics, local politics, etc. So the benefits of VSLA are numerous. It's also spread now to 45 countries across the world, and there's more than 15 million members in VSLAs globally. But the amounts are still small. It's not enough to do real large-scale business. It's based on cash, so it's insecure. The box can be stolen. And there's often no formal link to credit institutions, at least not in Niger as it is now. So that's why we conceived BlockSaver together with Hiveonline, which is a really exciting product or solution. It takes VSLA to the next level, digitizing all the core aspects of VSLA, so the methods and procedures that the women or people involved know. It digitizes record keeping, so it gives all of these women a digital identity and a formal credit history that they can use to leverage loans with banks and MFIs.
Yes, and we're building it using the B word, blockchain. But we're not using Bitcoin. And the reason we're using blockchain is because connectivity in Niger is really poor, which makes mobile money a challenge. In order to use a mobile money wallet, you need to be connected to the server. That's expensive data, and if you're in a community that doesn't have permanent connectivity, it's a challenge. What we can do with blockchain is create asynchronous reconciliation. That's a big mouthful, I know, but we can create little networks in communities where transactions can happen without the need to be connected. And then when connectivity is achieved, zoom up to the main blockchain. And because it's blockchain, because it's cryptocurrency, and I will not explain blockchain here because we haven't got time, but basically you can't double spend. So it takes away the challenge that an asynchronous money system would normally have, which means we can store and grow wealth locally within communities. As Lena said, we're also working with communities to use the financial systems that they're familiar with. Our data scientists work very closely with our community managers to use symbols and visual things because most of these women are illiterate, but also to use the financial systems that they are comfortable with so that we can maintain the trust. And these women are a huge asset. I mean, everyone that we talk to in Niger says these women are the future of the economy. And these people we're talking to, by the way, are all guys. And they see that these women are the future of the economy. So there's a big opportunity there, both for the women and for the lenders who would really like to get access to them.
Yeah. So how does this came about? In Care Denmark, we saw a lot of the NGO, private sector corporation, focusing on solutions and products that were already there on the market. We wanted to start the other way around, to look at the challenges. So we asked our partners in Niger, why don't you define what are the challenges for financial inclusion? And they came up with the ones we already know about cash flow, connectivity, trust in technology and banks. And then what we did was collaborate with the Copenhagen Fintech Lab, which is a community of fintech startups in Copenhagen, but they have a global network. And we posted the challenge in their community. And we got 8 very interesting submissions from as far as India. And we looked at all the submissions and asked questions. And in the end, we chose Hiveonline because we thought they had the most innovative frontier technology solution that we could see work for our projects. We have a tendency in this business to send old, outdated equipment and technology to Africa thinking they must be able to use that. This time we wanted something state-of-the-art, best on the market for Niger because the potential for leapfrogging is there and we think they deserve the best.
Yeah, absolutely. And we love working with CARE because they, for an NGO, have a very innovative approach to project financing, as I've mentioned. They're also really fast. So we did this competition in it was like July, August. We went to Niger for the first time in October. We started building in November. We did our blockchain demo last month. We've got an app demo going on as I speak, and we'll be live in June. Which, as NGO projects go, is pretty damn quick. And the reason we can do that is because CARE, as I said, are financing it in milestones in a way that we can work with. I can bring teams on. I've built a small team in Rwanda where they're building for local markets and they understand the African needs.
Yes, and as CARE in the humanitarian sector, we're being disrupted by all these new technological developments. So we decided to transform the way we work and work in more innovative setup and with partnership to increase our impact for the people that we ultimately want to serve. We find that partnering with startups makes a lot of sense. It's the perfect match for us. Many of them, like Hiveonline, are impact-driven. So it makes the perfect match for co-creation and increasing impact on the ground. As NGO, we are heavy machinery. We work in very long sprints, and for good reasons, for many times. But to offer these innovative projects and be able to test them and drive them to scale, we need somebody like Sofie and her team who are agile and rapid in delivery.
Yeah. And we've been able to do that thanks to this collaboration. But we're still building. And as we're building, we are partnering, as I mentioned, with in-country commercial organizations, government, with the Village Intelligent initiative that Lena mentioned, which is digitizing, it's a hugely ambitious project to digitize the rural population, which is 80% of Niger, in a country with a vastly dispersed population. This is a huge challenge. So we're working again with some very innovative infrastructure providers. And these initiatives are still evolving, but we see this channel incentives both for investors and for delivery partners as a really key part of how this works. CARE are building a social enterprise organization to sit between the for-profit and the enterprise world. We are a for-profit, but we're a social impact for-profit. And there's a growing cohort of people like us who are interested and want to work collaboratively. And we see this project with CARE in Niger, first of all, as a huge opportunity to digitize the way the economy works in Niger, lift these women out of poverty, and really make a transformational impact on the economy. in Niger and beyond. But secondly, we see it as an example of how these projects can work and how you can work on these kind of projects based on these initiatives. We're putting out a lot of information about how we're doing it and about how it could be done in future. One thing that I think we will evolve into is starting to issue more securitized instruments based on the kind of technologies that we're using, and that really is the next step. We're not there yet, and we are seeking additional partners and investors. So if you've got money, give it to us, and you will see the rewards. Sorry, I've lost the slide.
Yeah, as Sofie is saying, there's a huge opportunity here for scale through the CARE VSLA network in 45 countries. There's really a community infrastructure already there that is ready for this kind of opportunity.
Yeah.
So thank you.
And the network goes beyond Niger. I mean, we're getting inquiries from all over the world. We see this as an enormous opportunity for the VSLA and for other types of savings organisations to engage these micro businesses with the markets and the access to finance that they need to grow and be successful. They're amazing entrepreneurs. They deserve this opportunity. We're helping them get there. Thank you very much.